O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
If you wanted to cast a spell, say, 500 years ago, doing it on a full moon was basically the worst possible choice you could make. You might as well have just been sabotaging yourself.
Yeah, absolutely sabotaging yourself.
Right. So welcome to our latest deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating academic paper called The Chronometry of Shadows. And your mission for this deep dive, for you listening, is to untangle why the modern obsession with full moon magic is actually completely backward according to ancient practitioners.
It is totally backward. I mean, if you look at the 20th century Wiccan revival, led by figures like Gerald Gardner or Raymond Buckland, they really popularized this idea that the full moon is the ultimate peak of magical manifestation.
Yeah, it's treated like the championship game of the lunar cycle, right? Like the climax where all the big moves are supposed to happen.
Exactly. But when you look at the actual history of how historical magicians operated, that's just fundamentally wrong. If we go back to pre-19th century grimoires, ancient spell books like the Key of Solomon, they didn't care about the full moon at all.
Wait, really? So what were they looking at instead?
Well, the priority was always the crescents. It was entirely about momentum. So waxing crescents, when the moon's light is actively growing, those were used for constructive magic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, like if you wanted to build wealth or health or love, you harness that upward trajectory. And then waning crescents, when the moon is shrinking, those were for destructive or banishing magic.
Like getting rid of obstacles.
Exactly.
So by waiting for the full moon to start a spell for growth, you're basically jumping into a car after it has already run out of gas. Like the growth phase has literally just ceased.
Yeah, you're trying to build momentum when the engine is dead. And it actually goes a lot deeper than just momentum.
Oh, so?
Ancient astrological manuals like the Picatrix, or even Renaissance scholars like Agrippa, they considered the full moon to be highly inauspicious.
Inauspicious. Like actively bad.
Yeah, actively bad. Because astrologically, it represents a 180-degree opposition. The sun and moon are in direct conflict.
Oh, because they're basically staring each other down from opposite sides of the earth.
Right. The sun represents will and authority, while the moon represents growth and intuition. So in traditional astrological magic, those forces just, they neutralize each other during a full moon.
I mean, the sun's overwhelming glare essentially drowns out the moon's specific power. It's a cosmic stalemate.
A total stalemate.
But wait, if the brightest phase of the moon was mathematically useless to ancient astrologers, somebody had to rewrite that narrative to make it this ultimate magical aesthetic, right? And I'm guessing it wasn't the astrologers.
It definitely was not the astrologers. The modern full moon obsession actually traces back to something much darker, which is the Inquisition.
Wow, the Inquisition.
Yes, witch hunters essentially created this paranoid sabbatical lore about witches gathering at night to perform these, inverted rituals. And they singled out the full moon as the time for these gatherings for a completely mundane logistical reason.
Which was what? Just that they could see in the dark?
Literally, yes. They assumed these people just needed the bright moonlight to travel safely to remote locations without streetlights.
You are kidding.
No, it was purely practical in the minds of the witch hunters.
Wait, so the timeline implies the modern Wiccan revival didn't pull from ancient texts. They accidentally pulled from the propaganda of the Inquisition.
That's exactly what happened. 19th century Romantic authors took these trial records, which were extracted under torture, mind you, and they reframed them as these beautiful ancient fertility cults. Modern traditions basically inherited medieval police reports.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
But weren't there ancient witches who did moon stuff, like the Thessalian witches?
Yes, there is a kernel of truth there, but it's profoundly misunderstood. When ancient sources talk about famous figures like Aglianice of Thessaly drawing down the moon, they aren't talking about a monthly full moon ritual.
So what were they actually doing?
They were performing a really sophisticated, high-risk calculation of a lunar eclipse. By accurately predicting an eclipse, they could stand before a crowd and claim they were magically dragging the moon out of the sky into darkness.
So it wasn't worship at all. It was just this terrifying display of intellectual power.
Exactly. Furthermore, if we look at true ancient sorcery lineages, like the cult of Heke, the goddess of sorcery, they didn't care about the bright full moon either. They prioritized the complete absence of light.
Like a new moon.
Right, the dark moon. Hecate's Deipnon, which was her monthly rite, happened on the dark moon at three-way crossroads. It was all about liminal spaces, the in-between, rather than that bright public spotlight of a full moon.
See, this matters for you listening because it shows how easily the paranoid delusions of mortal enemies can be mistaken for ancient traditions. It is a massive lesson in looking past surface-level lore to understand the actual mechanics of history. We thought we were recreating a sacred ancient ritual, but we were actually just pantomiming the paranoid assumptions of the people who persecuted them.
It really is. It's a stark reminder that while history is often written by the victors, folklore is sometimes accidentally written by the persecutors.
Which leaves you with this to think about. If the full moon gathering was essentially a logistical assumption invented by medieval witch hunters, how many other modern spiritual or cultural traditions are actually just the inherited propaganda of the very people who tried to destroy them?